Natasha Lyonne has lived a life most Hollywood stars wouldn't survive, from being pushed into acting by her drug-addicted parents to battling her own addictions that nearly ended her career and her life. She's seen the very top and the very bottom. And while she's now a respected actress thanks to roles like Orange is the New Black and Russian Doll, Natasha's journey here is filled with chaos, heartbreak, and controversy.
Let's not get into the child star pipeline, that's for another video, but Natasha's parents separated at 8 years old, and that was really hard for her. She had her mom, who was single, raising her, and like we see in a lot of family dynamics.
And even today, she's making headlines for reasons that might surprise you. So let's dive into Natasha Lyonne's tragic life story and how she turned it all around. Natasha Lyonne's story doesn't start on Hollywood red carpets. It starts in New York City in 1979. Born into a family already drowning in chaos, her parents struggled with their own addictions and money problems, and instead of protecting their daughter, they pushed her into acting almost immediately. By 6 years old, Natasha was already on screen. One of her first appearances, Pee-wee's Playhouse. Make sure you subscribe to the channel.
Having alcoholic, suicidal, mental patient parents is really, really helpful for character development. And yeah, your eyes are wide open to the full scope of the human condition at an early age. So you have a high emotional IQ.
It might look like an innocent childhood role, but for Natasha, it was anything but. That paycheck wasn't going toward her future, it was helping to fund her parents' addictions. She was the family's cash cow. Things got even harder when Natasha's parents divorced at just 8 years old. From then on, she was raised by her single mother, who relied on Natasha's acting money to keep a roof over their heads. Natasha later put it bluntly, growing up with alcoholic, suicidal, mentally unstable parents gave her a sharp emotional IQ, but it also exposed her to the ugliest parts of life before she was even a teenager. By the time Natasha hit her teens, she was already living a double life. On one side, she was a rising actress. On the other, she was the weird kid with the big hair who was constantly getting into trouble. Her breakout role came as Jessica in American Pie. The movie was a cultural phenomenon, and Natasha's sarcastic, whip-smart character made her stand out. But even as her Hollywood career was heating up, her personal life was spiraling. At her private Jewish high school, Natasha was expelled for selling weed to her classmates. She later admitted she did it just to fit in after feeling like an outsider for years. "I probably smelled like a skunk most of the time," she joked. That need to escape, to numb herself, and to be seen as different was only growing stronger. And then came a traumatic event that pushed her even further towards self-destruction. In the late 90s, Natasha had just starred in Slums of Beverly Hills and was preparing for an audition to play Janis Joplin. But at 19, she says she was assaulted by a much older director she only refers to as G. He picked her up in Los Angeles, took her to a bar on Sunset Boulevard, and later overpowered her despite her saying no.
While there is a decade-long gap on her resume, it seems like Natasha has come back and even stronger than before. To be honest, Orange...
Natasha never named him publicly, but she admitted the experience left her devastated. She turned down the screen test afterward, a decision that might have changed her career forever. Instead of healing, Natasha buried the pain, and soon after, drugs became her way of numbing it all. Natasha left NYU to act full-time, but what she really committed to was heroin and opioids. By the early 2000s, her reputation in Hollywood was less about her acting and more about her addictions. In 2001, she was arrested in Miami for a DUI after crashing her car. Then in 2004, things got even stranger. Natasha was arrested again after allegedly breaking into a neighbor's apartment in Manhattan, tearing a mirror off the wall, and, in one of the strangest headlines ever, threatening to molest the neighbor's dog. This wasn't the witty Natasha from American Pie. This was someone completely lost to addiction. By the end of that year, actor Michael Rappaport, who was her landlord, evicted her from her apartment after constant complaints about her wild parties. Natasha Lyonne, once a rising star, was suddenly homeless. With no home and no stability, Natasha's addiction took full control. She couch-hopped, stayed with friends, and sometimes had nowhere at all to go. By 2005, her health was failing. Years of drug abuse left her with hepatitis C and permanent damage to her lungs. One night, her lung collapsed, and she was rushed to the hospital.
After the eviction, Natasha was reportedly homeless.
You know, I was so into drugs.
By 2005, Natasha hit rock bottom. She had no job, and her drug addiction was so bad she lived on the streets, where she contracted hepatitis C. Natasha's drug use had damaged her body so much that she was rushed to the hospital with a collapsed lung.
Doctors warned her she wouldn't survive much longer if she didn't change. Her father admitted to the press that Natasha had nowhere stable to live, but even he seemed unable to help. Natasha was, by every definition, at rock bottom. By 2006, her condition had worsened so much, she was admitted to Beth Israel Hospital in New York. Friends who saw her at the time described her as almost unrecognizable, thin, frail, and close to death.
By 2005, that following year, Natasha's addiction reached a life-threatening point. She was actually admitted to the hospital because her body was starting to fail her.
You know, it's like I'm a changed person in terms of I'm no longer like self-destructive in these same sort of violent ways that land you in, hospitals and DUIs. Kind of thing.
So Natasha's addiction was bad. She had to have heart surgery in 2012. What's interesting is that her character on Orange is the New Black had the same procedure, so she used her real scar for the scene where they spoke about this.
Years later, Natasha admitted she was no longer self-destructive in violent ways that land you in hospitals and DUIs. That brush with death forced her to make a choice: keep going down this road or fight for her life. Against the odds, she chose to fight. For almost a decade, Natasha was absent from Hollywood in any meaningful way. Many people thought her career was over, but then came her redemption arc. In 2013, Natasha was cast as Nikki Nichols in Netflix's Orange is the New Black. And this time, she wasn't just acting, she was living her truth on screen. Nikki was sarcastic, rebellious, and battling her own demons with drugs. Natasha poured her real experiences into the role. In one storyline, her character undergoes heart surgery, the exact same surgery Natasha had in real life in 2012. Instead of covering her scar, she showed it proudly on screen. Fans connected immediately. Critics praised her performance, saying she was raw, hilarious, and heartbreaking all at once. Natasha Lyonne was back, and stronger than ever. The success of Orange is the New Black opened new doors, leading to her Emmy-nominated series Russian Doll. Suddenly, Natasha was no longer a cautionary tale. She was a comeback story. But just when fans thought Natasha's story was all about triumph, a new controversy put her name back in headlines. This time, it wasn't about drugs or arrests. It was about technology. Natasha Lyonne has recently spoken out in favor of artificial intelligence in Hollywood. While many actors and writers are striking against AI, saying it threatens jobs, Natasha has called it a necessary adaptation. Her words, "If you're not going to join us, you're going to be left behind." For many fans, this felt like a betrayal. One viral comment read, "Every time Natasha Lyonne speaks about this, it just makes her look worse and worse. Never thought she'd become a corporate sellout." It's a shocking stance for someone who built her career as the ultimate outsider, and it shows that Natasha Lyonne's story is still as complicated and unpredictable as ever. Natasha Lyonne has lived through things most stars wouldn't survive. From a childhood stolen by addiction, to arrests, homelessness, and near-death health scares, she lost everything, and somehow she fought her way back. Her story is proof that rock bottom doesn't always mean the end. Sometimes it's the start of a comeback. But her embrace of AI reminds us that Natasha has never followed anyone else's rules. She's still making choices that divide her fans, and she probably always will, because Natasha Lyonne's story, it isn't over yet.